arguments in the Alex Murdaugh murder trial.
And in sports, the federal hockey Lancers make it to the district finals for the first time since 1970. Newswatch starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Andre Norris.
And I'm Lexi Lepoff. Welcome to Newswatch, your source for news impacting southeastern Ohio.
Republican former House Speaker Larry Householder took the stand in his own defense today. In the High Point federal racketeering trial, he is defending himself in what prosecutors say is a $61 million bribery scheme to pass a nuclear power plant bailout law for First Energy. Householder said First Energy's contributions did not influence his decision to push a nuclear power plant bailout bill, and that he did not threaten or pressure the candidates he supported through a dark money group to vote for him as Speaker. He claimed to be looking for political allies who he called casket carriers. A new bill could create a flat state income tax and make major property tax changes, costing schools and local governments could receive more than $1 billion as a part of the bill, which has its first hearing today. The bill is a top priority for Republican Ohio House Speaker Jason Stevens. It could create a 2.75% flat tax that could eliminate the state's 10% property tax rollback and replace a 2.5% rollback for Ohioans who live in the homes they own with a $125 flat rate. Sponsor Adam Matthews said it could cost local governments and schools up to $1.2 billion.
West Virginia State Auditor says he will run for governor in 2024, joining a growing pool of Republican candidates. Harrison County native J.B. McCluskey is currently in his second term as state auditor and has spent 4 years in the House of Delegates. Candidates can officially file to run for office next January. Current GOP Governor Jim Justice is barred by state law for seeking a third consecutive term. 6 other Republicans have filed papers with the Secretary of State's office to raise money for a gubernatorial campaign. No Democrats have announced plans to run for office. In the first month, sports gambling is legal in Ohio. Gamblers spend a total of $1.1 billion. Data shows Ohioans walk away in January with just under $900 million in winnings, with online play sports bet making up the bulk of those wagers. Sports books around the state made $200 million in revenue and gave away nearly $320 million in promotional credits, many of which were advertised to prospective gamblers for months throughout Ohio. Ohio has a 10% tax on sports betting revenue, meaning the state made roughly $20.9 million this month in tax revenue. These figures released by the Ohio Casino Control Commission yesterday include online sports gaming, in-person retail sports gaming.
So, the groundhog said there's 6 more weeks of spring. I think he's lying.
I think he's lying too, because today the 70 degrees, the sunshine.
Yes.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it really was. Are we tossing the weather? Are you doing weather?
I mean, I will let you know that the weather is nice and warm. We're not expecting this for too much longer, but enjoy it while you can. I don't know if you guys got to enjoy it today. Did you do anything special?
No, not really. I had some homework to do, but later, not later, I guess tomorrow. Is it going to be better tomorrow?
It's going to actually rain tonight. Like I said, you're going to want to take advantage of the nice weather today. I got to take my dog to the dog park today, but for those of you that didn't, your next chance is going to be coming up Thursday, which is tomorrow, but overnight tonight, we will notice actually that we do have quite a bit of rain coming into our region. If we take a live look over at our camera there on our beautiful Athens campus, you'll see conditions are nice and beautiful. Things are nice and clear out skies. I saw a lot of people walking around, hammocking in the area here, but now we saw temperatures today are currently sitting at 74. There was a high of 78 degrees. Currently, right now, the rest of the region was a little bit colder up towards the north and a little bit more warmer to the south, and it's because we have this zonal flow coming into our region, bringing some clouds and clearing stuff up. Now, things are expected to change, and I'll have that more for you guys coming up in a few minutes. Andre?
Thank you, Jacob. That's so great to hear about the weather. So moving on, Ohio Senators Sherrod Brown and J.D. Vance introduced a bill aimed at making the railroads safer in the country.
The bipartisan bill is in response to the toxic train derailment in East Palestine. It would create new safety requirements for all trains carrying hazardous materials and would prohibit trains carrying these chemicals from crossroads. Also in the bill, an increase to maximum fine for safety violations. Instead of only paying $250,000, railroad companies would have to pay 1% of their annual operating income.
More news out of the train derailment. Norfolk Southern Railroad CEO Alan Shawn will appear before a Senate committee next week to testify about the East Palestine train derailment. That's according to a source familiar with the matter. The source says Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer will call on Shaw before the Senate's Environment and Public Works Committee. The committee is set to hold an oversight hearing on the toxic train derailment this month. While it's not clear if Shaw will agree to testify, Schumer's request comes as Democrats now have subpoena power in the Senate. Meanwhile, Republicans are gearing up for an investigation in the House aimed directly at the Biden administration's response to the crisis. In East Palestine today, Governor Mike DeWine met with the cleanup crews at the site of the train derailment. The visit comes amid anxiety over reported rashes and headaches that could be tied to the toxic release of chemicals. DeWine and his wife were also at East Palestine High School today. While at school, DeWine says the community can be proud of the efforts made in the area.
I think the community can be very proud of the teachers, very proud of the students, very proud of everybody.
And arguments continue over President Biden's student debt relief plan. These stories and more when Newswatch returns.
We are at Adena Mansion and Gardens. This is where Ohio history began. They're in their writing talking all night long about what they wanted Ohio to be. What type of state did they want Ohio to be? They wrote the Constitution, came out and saw the sun coming up over the Mount Logan Range. That is the inspiration for the Great Seal of Ohio.
The Welk musical family tells Lawrence Welk's story, from the beginning to a national sensation in the 1950s through the mid-80s, and on public television for over 25 years. Lawrence Welk's TV Treasures.
Saturday at 7 on WOUB.
Can you all live the ultimate retirement? You can.
Acclaimed personal finance expert Susie Orman provides essential advice to make your retirement more successful and secure.
Every little action that you take can make a tremendous difference. It's never too soon to begin. Fear no more.
Susie Orman's Ultimate Retirement Guide.
Saturday at 2 on WOUB.
Closing arguments in the former South Carolina attorney Alex Murdaugh murder case begins today, or were made today, rather.
The jury also got to see the scene of the crime in person for the first time, where Murdaugh is accused of killing his wife and son. Cole Higgins has more from South Carolina.
The jurors who will decide the fate of Alec Murdaugh finally touring the sprawling property where Murdaugh's wife and youngest son were shot and killed in June 2021. The jury spending most of their time at the family's dog kennels and the shed where Maggie and Paul died, seeing for the first time in person areas that have been the subject of much testimony. Testimony that included Murdaugh admitting on the stand he lied to investigators about where he was on the night of the murders.
Day number 27. And you have heard all of the testimony, received all of the evidence.
The lead prosecutor detailing Murdaugh's financial troubles, opioid addiction, and what he described as unbearable pressures, telling jurors during closing arguments,
there is only one person who had the motive, who had the means, who had the opportunity to commit these crimes. The defendant is the person on which a storm was descending, and the defendant as a person where his own storm would actually mean consequences for Maggie and Paul.
The prosecution also reminding jurors of the forensic evidence they say shows Murdaugh manufactured his alibi.
What were you doing from 9:02 to 9:06? Those are questions he doesn't want to answer because he lies convincingly and easily, and he can do it at the drop of the hat, and you've heard testimony about that. He's been doing it to all the people who trust him for years.
I'm Cole Higgins reporting.
If Alex Murdaugh is found not guilty, he still faces the possibility of decades in prison if convicted of the separate charges he faces for alleged financial crimes, which he also denies.
The Supreme Court is considering whether President Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness plan is constitutional. Some conservative justices were skeptical of Biden's authority to cancel millions of dollars in federal loans. Reed Binion has a look at the deliberations from both sides.
It's a great day to cancel student debt.
High stakes at the high court as the Supreme Court hears arguments in two cases impacting millions of Americans. On Tuesday, justices considered whether President Biden's plan to erase student debt is constitutional.
Some of the finest moments in the court's history were pushing back against presidential assertions of emergency power.
Conservative justices also pointing to the price tag of the loan forgiveness program, an estimated $400 billion over time, according to the Congressional Budget Office, and questioning whether the program is fair.
I think they argue that is missing is cost to other persons in terms of fairness, for example, people who've paid their loans, people who don't have planned their lives around not seeking loans, and people who are not eligible for loans.
Some liberal justices also weighing in on what may be fair.
I'm wondering whether or not the same fairness issue would arise with respect to any federal benefit programs.
One of the cases is a challenge from 6 GOP-led states wanting to block Biden's executive actions. The second involves 2 individual borrowers suing because they are not qualified for full debt relief. The Biden administration argued Congress gave it the power to forgive student loans because of financial hardships Americans face due to a national emergency, the COVID pandemic. An estimated 40 million people qualify for the program, which can forgive up to $20,000 per borrower. I'm Reed Binion reporting.
The man picked to lead the Federal Aviation Administration is facing tough questions during a conference hearing. Some senators are raising concerns about his lack of aviation experience and legal entanglements. This as the agency contends with several problems, including several near collisions, staffing shortages, and aging technology. Chris Wynn has the story.
In the hot seat on Capitol Hill,
the safety of the traveling public will remain my top priority.
Phil Washington, President Joe Biden's pick to lead the Federal Aviation Administration, answering senators' questions Wednesday at his long-awaited confirmation hearing.
As I look at your record, I see a record where you've got experience with buses, you've got experience with trains. Buses and trains are very different from planes.
Senators grilling Washington, who has years of road and rail transportation experience, but less than 2 in aviation as the CEO of Denver International.
I will own well-intentioned failure, and FAA employees will own their success.
The hearing comes as the FAA investigates an apparent close call at Boston Logan Monday night between 2 planes that came within 565 feet of colliding, according to Flight Radar 24's preliminary review.
They're really going to want to find out, was there a communications breakdown? Was there a distraction involved?
The FAA says the pilot of a Learjet 60 took off without clearance even after being told to wait, as JetBlue Flight 206 was preparing to land on an intersecting runway and had to take evasive action.
The pilots did a really incredible job. I mean, we came in, it was a scary situation, but it was very smooth.
The incident, one of 5 close calls involving a commercial airliner on a runway this year. In Washington, I'm Chris Wynn reporting.
Washington told the Senate committee he spent 24 years in the military and running various transit agencies. This is experience, he says, that gives him a unique perspective on how aviation and all modes of transportation should integrate into seamless systems. Criticisms and support for Washington primarily fell along partisan lines during the hearing. When we come back, a new treatment provides new hope for those suffering from heart failure. That story's still ahead.
And I'm tracking changes in our weather here in southeastern Ohio as the system makes its way into our region. I'll have more after our break. In the meantime, if you're looking for more Newswatch, you can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter.
Thanks to viewers like you, we've been able to tell America's stories on this PBS station. Help us continue to tell these stories now and for future generations by including this station in your charitable plans.
Supporting this PBS station through a gift of stock is easy. To find out more, call the number on your screen or visit this website. Thank you.
The Welk musical family tells Lawrence Welk's story from the beginning to a national sensation in the 1950s through the mid-80s, and on public television for over 25 years. Lawrence Welk's TV Treasures.
Saturday at 7 on WOUB.
Lucy Ware Webb was born here. As a young lady, as the wife of the governor, as the wife of the President of the United States, she's always the same person. Just a terrific lady. As residents of Chillicothe, we're very, very proud of her. To have a person of that character to represent this community, small as it is, in the White House.
Welcome back, Southeastern Ohio. I'm Newswatch forecaster Jacob Van Cleven. In Athens, you did have those warm temperatures today. It also followed with those clear skies. Now we are expecting some clouds to move back into our region. Mostly cloudy overnight, and you'll see those temperatures are going to drop down towards 46 overnight. Now this is because sitting right in our region here, you'll see we had those clear skies throughout the day, but then there's this whole system that's actually bringing itself into our region. But you also notice there's this whole band right here where this is clear skies, and that's associated with somewhat of a cold front that'll be coming through tonight. Now because of this cold front and the other systems going on in that satellite imagery, you'll see down south here, they have more of a risk when it comes to severe weather, but we're still actually in this region of marginal to maybe very faint when it comes to a severity in weather. Now that's because this cold front, when it comes through, is not only going to bring a bunch of isolated showers into our region, but it's also going to bring the potential for some damaging winds. Now we'll notice those chances of showers are 80%, but relatively, if you think for our area here in southeastern Ohio, expect these rain showers, expect some periods of them to be intense, but it's going to be very brief all at once. Now you'll notice those temperatures overnight, like I said, they're going to be 46 degrees, and then we're going to have a slight warming, but it's definitely going to be cooler tomorrow with mostly cloudy skies. You'll notice your temperatures tomorrow are going to be 59 degrees, and then you'll have even cooler highs or lows overnight because that cold front makes its way into the system. Now this cold front, eventually when it pushes through, you'll see it pushes down south, and it's going to leave us with this whole region of no precipitation here. And that's because we're going to see high pressure funnel in behind it. And again, the system will continue tomorrow night, and then it becomes somewhat of a stationary front where it's going to fight between warm air mass and a cooler air mass. And we'll see up north here, this is where the high pressure is going to sit in our region and give us those chances of those gusty conditions. Now moving into Friday, you'll see this low pressure system here is now going to be building. It's going to be bringing into our region. That whole area of that frontal boundary is now going to no longer conflict as you have this deep low that's going to make its way into our system right here. Now this yellow line that you see, this is what we call the dry line, and you'll see conditions below this will be more humid. You'll have a lot of moisture associated with that, and just north where we are sitting right here is going to be clear, and it's going to have windier conditions, but it's going to be very dry this day. Now if we look at our satellite imagery or our model run and see how this system is going to work, it's going to build up down here. It's slowly going to intensify as that low pressure deepens right there. You'll see this whole region is the warm inflow, and we'll get stuck right here in southeastern Ohio, and we'll actually see warming in our temperatures. Now before we get there, we'll see with our 7-day outlook, those temperatures are going to be chillier, and Friday you'll see now it's 100% chance showers as we had a refresh on our model here. 59 for a high of the day, and then you'll see as our 7-day outlook kind of breaks out and you'll see those conditions. It's still going to be cooler, but not as cool or warm as we saw the past couple days, and then that system comes through Wednesday. Lexi?
Thank you, Jacob. 6 million adults have heart failure in the United States. That's according to the American Heart Association. This means more patients are at risk to suffer from a heart attack or stroke. Mandy Gaither has more on how cell therapy may reduce those risks.
It's a serious condition where the heart can't pump enough blood and oxygen to meet the body's needs. The symptoms of heart failure are often treated through medication.
All of these medicines we use, they're quite successful, and they improve, they even prolong life. Well, but that's only half the story, because what about what causes heart failure? What keeps it going? None of these medicines address that.
A new study published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology finds cell therapy involving adult stem cells from bone marrow administered directly into an inflamed heart through a catheter could result in a long-term 58% reduced risk of heart attack and stroke in severe heart failure patients.
It works along with the treatments that we already have. So you can imagine we keep everybody going and doing better with the medicines, and now we have a treatment that actually addresses the cause and quiets everything down.
The researchers say their findings should be considered hypothesis generating in that they show this cell therapy concept could work, but clinical trials would be needed to specifically confirm the effects of these stem cells on heart attack, stroke, and other health events.
This line of investigation really has a great future, and I can see that with a confirmatory trial, we can bring this kind of treatment into the mainstream.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Coming up next, we're going to see the men's basketball team and how they fared against the Kent State Golden Flashes. And after that, we'll find out how the Federal Hawking Lancers fared out in their district semifinal game. I'll look at what's coming up tonight on your public television station.
Thanks to viewers like you, we've been able to tell America's stories on this PBS station. Help us continue to tell these stories now and for future generations by including this station in your charitable plans.
Supporting this PBS station through a gift of securities is easy. To find out more, call the number on your screen or visit this website. Thank you.
Do you think that's the key thing missing in the conversation about climate change?
Learn a lot about the African American experience.
It's your palate, it's your taste, it's how you like to cook.
Look at all the colors.
Discovering stories of people.
Voices will be heard today.
People really see the message.
Such a shared experience.
The choice is yours.
You make the decision.
With Passport on the PBS Video app.
We are at Adena Mansion and Gardens. This is where Ohio history began. They're in their writing talking all night long about what they wanted Ohio to be. What type of state did they want Ohio to be? They wrote the Constitution, came out and saw the sun coming up over the Mount Logan Range. That is the inspiration for the Great Seal of Ohio.
WOUB is recognizing members of our Cornerstone Society. The Cornerstone Society is a group that wants to ensure the future of public media in our region. It includes people across our area who value news, entertainment, and cultural programming, as well as the educational services WOUB provides. Also included are graduates of Ohio University who took part in the WOUB Student Professional Development Program. Thanks to the Cornerstone Society for their generous support. To learn how you can be involved, email woub@woub.org.
Good evening, I'm Morgan Anderson. Ohio football released its 2023 schedule this morning, and after their winning record in bowl championship last fall, it'll be a season you just don't want to miss. Opening this season, the Bobcats will travel to San Diego, California for their Week 0 contest. On September 16th, Ohio will host the Big 12 team, Iowa State, in Peden Stadium. And the historic rivalry against Miami, better known as the Battle of the Bricks, will go down Halloween weekend. The Ohio men's basketball team returned to action last night against Kent State, but failed to bring home a conference win on the road. It was a hard-fought battle between the two teams, but against the Golden Flashes, but ultimately the Bobcats lost 82-75. Ohio led the first half 39-35, but couldn't hold the back for the rest of the match.
I think they got good players. You know, it's like I said, those two have won a lot of games, and you got probably the best defender in the league in Jacobs, and a fifth-year kid in Carey who's made some big-time shots his whole career.
As Jeff Bull said, opening the second, the Flashes and the Bobcats traded buckets. Ohio got comfortable and were able to lock in a top 8 spot for tournament play. With that lead against Kent State, who's undefeated at home, they bring quite the roster in order to go into tournament play comfortable at hopefully a 5th seed if they can secure a win against Bowling Green. And as Bulls said, they bring a great roster, making it surely competitive here in the MAC. Now, let's take a look at how this loss impacts tournament play as a whole. And as we saw, Ohio locked in that top 8 spot, so it'll be interesting to see how this season ends on Friday. Either way, the Bobcats will be hitting the road next week to Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse for the MAC tournament in Cleveland next Monday. Meanwhile, tonight, Ohio women's basketball is hosting the Miami Redhawks for a rematch of the Battle of the Bricks. The cross-state rivals last went head-to-head at the end of January, where Ohio clutched an overtime win 84-73 in Oxford. Tonight, the Redhawks are in Athens, and it'll be a battle of the guards. Miami is led by powerhouse guard Ivy Wolf. Wolf leads her team with an average of 16.4 points per game. But Miami will need to lock down Ohio's guard and finest Yaya Felder. Felder has claimed double figures in 24 of Ohio's games and averages 21.1 points per game. And finally, a team close to home, the Federal Hocking boys basketball team tasted sweet victory Monday night with their first district semifinal win for the first time since 1970. An electric game to say the least, the Lancers took on the Beaver Eastern Eagles on the hardwood in McAfee Gymnasium. It was a tight back and forth affair all night. Federal Hocking took control of the glass on both sides of the ball, proving to be crucial for victory up until the final buzzer, closing the match 60-59. Head coach Jonathan Thompson said it was a long-awaited win in the making.
We set a goal to get to this game. We do it every year, and we finally got over that hump. It's been a long, long time.
Andre and Lexi, the Lancers will take on Portsmouth Notre Dame tomorrow night, but in our backyard, the Convocation Center.
Wow, that's so exciting. What a great achievement for Federal Hocking and the Lancers, especially after their football season got canceled.
And you said something about 50 years?
Yeah, in 53 years, they won the district semifinals.
Well, thank you so much. We're going to take a final look at your weather with Jake.
Other than sports going on in our backyard, we also have weather that's going on in our backyard. You'll see this whole cloud system is going to be moving into the region, bringing us a bunch of clouds, and it's going to be also bringing us a bunch of rain into our region. It's going to be dropping temperatures down to 46 degrees overnight with a slight warming, definitely not warm as we were today with a high of 59 degrees. Those mostly clouds are still going to stay in the region, especially as we have this system right here. Now, this system is expected to bring some isolated showers and even damaging rain to our area. The National Weather Service may issue a flood warning for regions that are lower lying because of the excessive rain we'd be expecting right here. That's all I have for weather. Back to you at the desk.
And that does it for our broadcast this evening. Thanks for watching. For all of us here at Newswatch, I'm Lexi Lepoff.
And I'm Andre Nurl. Stay tuned for the PBS NewsHour coming up next. And remember, you can find the latest news anytime at WOUB.org. Have a great night.
Support comes from Snyder Strode Jarrett Financial in Athens, providing investment and retirement planning assistance to Southeast Ohio for over 50 years. Snyder Strode Jarrett, not just another financial firm. More information at ssj.finance.